What's up, y'all? This is the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. I'm your host, David Brickley, and we dig in every single show to the ever-changing digital and social landscape, and we bring the experts on to really try to drop some knowledge on you as you take your time to listen to the program, and we really appreciate it every single show. Episode 36, Will and Dave and Dylan. This is going to look like we have Jerome Bettis at 36, Robin Roberts, don't know who that is. That's an MLB player. Gaylord Perry and Don Newcomb. Is that how you say it? Newcomb? I don't know who that is either. You think Jerome Bettis? Should this be the Don Newcomb podcast? I don't know. I guess we'll keep it in the NFL since we have Taylor Stern, the content strategist at the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like Steelers, Cowboys, though, that's a decent rivalry, right? It might be kind of disrespectful to Taylor, but we'll go with it anyway. Jerome, the Bus Bettis podcast, number 36. But yeah, Taylor Stern is a friend. Was able to actually grab some lunch with her last time I was actually in Frisco. We had some lunch there at the Star, a great facility. But her and I have stayed in touch quite a bit and have admired each other from afar. I think they're doing some great work at the Cowboys, and I've had a lot of conversations with her team as well. And I know she's said some nice things about STN, which we always appreciate. Hey, if you like the show, a real quick reminder, hit us up on iTunes. How about a 5-star review? That'd be Will Kelly, the producer. Will would very much appreciate that. That's how he judges his impactfulness at STN, is the amount of reviews on the Business of Social podcast. So we appreciate that. But no, this is going to be a good one. Taylor Stern, the content strategist at the Dallas Cowboys. All right, she is the content strategist at the Dallas Cowboys. Taylor Stern joins us on the Business Social podcast. Taylor, thanks so much for the time.
I'm so happy to finally join you. I know we've been scheduling and rescheduling.
I know, on both parts. We're finally here. This is a big day.
This is a big day.
I think, well, according to your Twitter, you and I are the only people on the planet that have not been caught up on Game of Thrones. So we share that in common, which is
that really surprises me about you. Now, what was that a conscious choice? Like, where did that?
No, honestly, I mean, I really want to dive into it, but I mean, I feel like you have to watch this show. I have like 19 of those on my backlog. I just got into The Office, which is really weird because I'm like a comedy guy, and I'm like 5 seasons in now, so I've been caught up. But everybody's like, "Wait, you haven't seen?" So there's those, I got some catching up to do.
The Office was a show that I did. I remember during college finals, just like playing it. It was like
that's not the best. That's not a good time to do it. I don't think.
No, I mean somehow I graduated and somehow I'm here.
Exactly. I think procrastination in college bodes really well in the social media world, right? Because you're under pressure. You have to be on your A game. So I used to do the same thing. Anyways, I think both of us have kind of admired each other's work from afar, right? And it's It was great to meet you in person, and it's awesome to talk shop with you here on the pod. I always kick things off with a random question. I'm going to hit you with some hot fire right now. Rank the top 3 Dallas Cowboys of all time.
Okay, I'm going to go Troy Aikman number 1, Roger Staubach number 2, and Jason Witten number 3.
Jason Witten at number 3.
Jason Witten is my dude. Like, I've never had a bad experience with him. Now that he is back from his retirement, he is a new guy, and I say that as the utmost confidence and respect. Like, for someone who retired and did such a lavish retirement like he did, was put at the top pedestal in broadcasting booths, accepted the fact that wasn't for him, and then decided to come back to a team that is one of the youngest teams in the NFL. You're turning 37. And to have the attitude that he does, he's the ultimate GOAT.
I do think that Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith being snubbed on that list, but everybody has their list.
That was a personal bias list.
All right, so give the listeners a 60-second elevator pitch on all that you do at the Cowboys and what you oversee in your day-to-day role.
Yeah, so I started here back in 2015, and when I got here, I was the social media coordinator, and at first that was exactly what it sounds like, just literally posting, and then it slowly evolved into some more on-camera work where I was doing different podcasts. We started a new show called Cover 4, which is our digital show, runs on all of our different platforms. I'm a co-host on that, and then as social media really started to evolve, I became more ingrained in discovering the analytics of it, kind of what it really is the content strategy and the distribution plans for all digital media because they're all integrated now. They're all running together seamlessly and figuring out the best way to do that and stay ahead of the game.
Well, what's interesting too, and I don't know if a lot of people in the industry know about this, maybe they do, but with what you guys do and your team, you're not only managing the Dallas Cowboys, you're almost a content strategist for the Jerry Jones infrastructure.
Yes.
They have the Star and they have, I mean, you could probably break it down better than I can, but how many different accounts on a monthly basis are you guys touching over there at the Cowboys?
When I first started, it was AT&T Stadium, it was the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, and it was the Dallas Cowboys, and that was your basic three of, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that was that. Now, even Cowboys has grown as far as we have a YouTube channel that's, we're trying to make as robust as possible. We have connected TV apps. You've now expanded into the Star in Frisco. We have so many different new accounts that we're trying to work for different people, whether it be Cowboys Fit, the exclusive gym that we have here at the Star, or, different entities as far as Formation, which is a WeWork space that we have here. Cowboys Club, which is like a social club.
And all the same people are running that. So you're saying, like, what are we doing for the Fit at the Fit account or whatever?
Yes.
On a monthly basis.
So, Shannon Gross, who's my boss, he's the director of content strategy. Dude. Great dude, big beard. We'll have meetings every week, and it's like, okay, you're doing this, this, and this, and you kind of have to just streamline it all.
And how many people on the team that are helping manage all that, dedicated to that?
Well, Dana now she's now taken my role, which is social media coordinator, and she handles 4 part-time employees.
Okay.
So it's like a team around 6 to 8. It's pretty big.
That's pretty big for the NFL. Do you guys think you would have less if it wasn't for the other platforms, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably. I feel like the philosophy. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, when Shannon and I first started, it was only him and I. And then you just realize, like, hey, to really do this the way that we want to do it, we need some help.
I feel like in Dallas with Mark Cuban and Jerry Jones, to a certain extent, like, they are investing on the digital side and kind of understand that game maybe more so than all the other teams. Have you seen that? Have you seen a lot of growth there? I'm sure you have since you started.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, when I first started, it seemed like, oh, that's a full-time job. And now it's, it's director positions, and you're having these people who are, mid-20s taking over companies that have shifted their focus to digital and social media, because it's the way of the world now. It's messaging. I mean, you probably wouldn't have felt the same way about Game of Thrones 10 years ago because it wasn't talked about the way that it was on social media now. I mean,
I'm almost looking forward to next Sunday when my Twitter feed isn't completely blasted.
I wanted to send out that tweet.
Which is fun, but if you don't know what's going on, I just see all these Arya tweets, and I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'm such a super nerd that I was watching a CNN 2000s documentary, and HBO back in the early 2000s was like ready to tank because Netflix and all of these up and coming, and then they had great shows.
Yep. All right, so I always like to ask this question, but how do you personally approach social? What's your core belief on how to utilize it correctly?
Being transparent. I think the biggest thing on my personal side is that I always wanted to make it seem like if you were going to follow me, that you knew me. Now, granted, I do not cuss on any of my social media, and newsflash, I do in real life. So that's probably one difference. But I think it's just being as transparent as possible and making people feel that if they are going to connect with you or be your virtual friend, that they are. And that's with, talking relatably, posting things of my family and of my personal life, sharing vulnerable spots of life and different things like that. I think that's always been my approach. And I've actually seen it do really well in the digital branding world as well. I mean, when we've done things that are more transparent and vulnerable, I think the Cowboys Finish This Fight is a good example. We had the players voice their own stories, and it did really well. So
you're saying that just translates whether it's, the Taylor Stern personal account or the @Dallas Cowboys account.
Yeah.
If you're just being real, genuine, and transparent of where you are as a team, where you are as a person, it's going to resonate more with the audience.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is now with so many people on social media, the way to stand out is to be real. and to be who you are. You look at someone like Chrissy Teigen, who's completely taken over Twitter, and it was because she was saying what was really on her mind, unfiltered.
Yep.
So I think that's the true key.
All right, so Dallas Cowboys, America's team. Has there been, what's the story that pops in your head of any, I guess, moment like that where you've had to kind of tread the line, whether it be a losing season, whether it be trading a player? Like, has there been situations like that where you've been impressed or you've been kind of shocked of how the fan base took it, whether positive or negative?
I brought up Jason Witten, and Jason Witten, when I was my first season was the 2015 season, and we were 4-12, and it was bleak on social media.
Yeah.
It was hard, and I remember one time we were on a 7-game losing streak, and I think Shannon was like, "Hey, just post some social pictures. Like, we just need some content
What's
up."
20, and that's like what, Romo's injured at the time and it's backup quarterback time?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like Matt Castle, Brandon Wheaton, like some serious rock bottom.
Shouts out to Matt Castle and Brandon Wheaton, by the way.
Still in the league, still kicking it. And I posted a photo of Jason Witten because he was the ultimate like neutral zone with fans.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked at the comments, and one of the comments was like, "They do this to trick us, to remind us to be happy, but everything is terrible with the Cowboys."
There you go.
And at that same time, it was Greg Hardy. So you had to be careful about how you were phrasing articles with sounding too violent, or it was a baptism under fire for real.
That's funny. How does that, do you, in a situation like that, do you get a note from PR? Does it come from ownership, or you need to, there's a situation kind of developing and social now needs to take this approach or be more, kid gloves with the situation?
I think there's an easy communication streamline between PR, between sponsorship, especially. I will always remember we posted a cover 4, and that's sponsored by J.C. Penney, and it was a normal post on a Monday afternoon that was just like, join Cowboys cover 4 as they discuss the win over, New York Giants this past weekend, presented by J.C. Penney. The next morning, I was looking at it on a Tuesday morning. It had 450 replies, and it was because Jerry Jones had made some comments about the president and his position on kneeling and not kneeling.
Gotcha.
So fans were responding to this tweet discussing a completely different topic. And we needed to be very careful because this is including a sponsor that we have a very good relationship with. This is nothing that their piece of content had to do with.
Right.
So it's kind of just a basic understanding, and then just being, again, transparent with our sponsorship people, our PR people, or our PR people, and then our own group.
What's a common mistake you see other teams or other brands making on social?
FOMO, and I dealt with that really big when I first got here. I would come
meaning like let's hop on this Game of Thrones train.
Oh, let's do everything. Let's have an Avengers Endgame movie poster and put our players in it. And I struggled with that majorly when I first got here, because just like finding the difference of being a personal account and then being a brand account. Like I was like, oh, the Cowboys should jump in on NBA Finals talk, and the Cowboys should do this, and we need to be doing more trash talk between teams. And then just slowly realizing like that's not our tone, that's not our voice. We may be missing an opportunity here, but we can capitalize on another one. And so I see a lot of teams maybe on the rising level, like the Jags were doing really well for a little bit, and then they felt like they had to like force themselves into every conversation, and it kind of came into a lull.
just reaching a little too often.
There are some times when it fits your team and your brand or certain players that are on your team, but don't force it.
Has there been a time where, I guess, that you guys tried something that you thought maybe it wasn't even reaching, but you really thought, hey, this is a pop culture moment, we really think it's going to resonate with the Dallas fans or Cowboy fans, but then it ended up being like, really? They didn't like that? Because I think that happens all the time, where you have to be risky, you have to take those chances. That sounds like you have something in mind there.
For our schedule release this year, we went on the limb of ASMR videos.
That's right.
And we did a ASMR video, and we even had Jerry Jones involved, Amari Cooper involved, Atlanta Falcons knocked it out of the ballpark
Yeah, I mean,
with
Atlanta Falcons. I mean,
they're
I
great.
almost feel like, yeah.
And so we were just like, oh, maybe that wasn't our hit.
But other than the Atlanta, I mean, obviously Atlanta Falcons, didn't they use the Game of Thrones? We were just talking about this with Ben Hunt from the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I think they used the Game of Thrones
The
designer.
intro, yeah. They actually went to the Game of Thrones designers?
I think that's what I hear. That's what the news on the street.
They're very smart to do that. And then that's one thing, like, we had talked about doing something Game of Thrones, and we are like, well, that might be too oversaturated at that point. But sometimes it's either like, if it's good, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. And when does, like, I think Game of Thrones now officially ends, but there's been moments, I brought this up on an earlier episode, like the Jordan crying face. I mean, in my opinion, that lasted an additional 18 months than it should have. So, like, people tend to kill things off when it comes to that stuff too.
Yeah. Then it's like,
it's super funny in the beginning, but after a while, it's like, please stop. Where is the undervalued attention right now, in your opinion, in the social and digital landscape?
I think Instagram stories and Instagram Live are still pretty undervalued, just because it seems like, oh, not everybody is using that. But I'll tell you, just from a personal standpoint, I mean, I can post something on Instagram stories and it will have double the views or likes that a post on my actual feed would have. Yeah. And so I lean towards that sometimes as a way to post content or to put content out there. And I think it's still one of those where, Instagram TV, that's going to be a bigger thing. I really do believe that, because of the way that they're integrating it into the platform.
And they're juicing that algorithm right now too, where if you do use it, you're going to see better organic results.
Exactly. And now, I would have told you Facebook video a year ago, but now I feel like with that algorithm, your videos might.
Are you guys seeing the same? I think you probably are, but I mean, we're seeing with our clients 100 times more organic engagement on Instagram than that of Facebook. You're looking at a 0.003% organic engagement rate on Facebook. But has that forced you guys to change where you put resources because of the lack of organic engagement?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not necessarily looking at the engagement numbers, but just knowing where our fans are and what they want to see. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I know that we put a giant emphasis on putting more videos on our Instagram feed.
Yep.
And not just doing, hey, here's a picture from this, but making it a video.
I'll dive into Instagram stories a little bit, and I think I probably mentioned it before, but for those listeners out there, I agree with you. IG stories is still the most valuable real estate in digital right now, because when you open up your app, it's at the very top of your app. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I thought that was going to be something that they originally would mess with, and that was kind of like the go-to thing a year ago, but it's still just such valuable real estate. To your point, even if I follow the Cowboys, I have to scroll for 20 seconds to get to a Cowboy post. But if I'm just kind of mindlessly looking at stories,
circle.
Yeah, you'll see it. I mean, and the fact that it automatically plays your next friend or your next brand that you follow as Instagram story, we're seeing the same thing. Are you guys tracking completion rate of your stories and like chapter by chapter? Is that kind of data you're looking at as well?
No, really at this point, it's still just basic impressions. A lot of our analytics are controlled by sponsorships and how we provide content to our sponsors or our partners. And I think it's funny, and, it's to my betterment of not killing myself right now, but sponsors and partners are still looking for the pretty basic analytics. It's, tell me the video views, tell me the media impressions.
Yep.
Retweets, likes, those types of things. Whereas, some people who dove a little deeper into these things know that, hey, actually it's dwell time that matters more. It's how many exits did you have? And those types of analytics can actually tell you a little bit more, but we haven't really, looked into it.
I came across this stat, I think it was on Recode, but the top 200 brands in the world see an 80% completion rate of their entire story. So if they have like a 15-chapter story, you'll see 80% of people start and then finish. So if you're tracking over 80%, just a random stat, you're doing pretty well. It's something we try to look at as well. That being said, how are you guys measuring success? What are the numbers that you're looking at on a monthly basis at the Cowboys across all your feeds to make sure you're doing it right, and when to know when to pull those levers or not?
I think a big thing for us right now is video views. A big recap report that we're trying to get our heads fully around is our video views year over year for draft weekend. We didn't have a first round pick this year. So telling the story of like, hey, even without a first round pick, we were still able to capitalize on those numbers with, our video views maintaining or even increasing in some aspects because we added more on Instagram stories than before. So we're really looking at video views. That's a big one. As far as just general reporting, page views for our web and app and connected TV are always going to be first and foremost. How many people are actually getting to the platforms? You don't have that same measurement on social platforms, but that kind of is impressions. What's our reach? What's our average kind of total interactions on any given post? That's always important.
All right, so you've mentioned a little bit about sponsorship and making sure data is to a point where you can present that to sponsorship. You mentioned Cover 4 as well, sponsored by JCPenney. So have you guys had success? I'm guessing a lot of people want to partner with the Dallas Cowboys. So when you have these digital assets, when you have these digital assets, how much success have you guys seen monetizing on your social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, some of the programs themselves have been really well natively. I know Twitter was a big push this year to have Twitter videos monetized. YouTube does really well with their monetization program. And then working with kind of our own teams on sponsorship and knowing what content does the best for us and then presenting that to them. It's easy for them to work with a sponsor and kind of be that liaison and say, hey, we have this digital show. If you're looking to reach a more millennial audience, Cover 4 would be the fit for you. We have a pregame and postgame show.
So do you launch these franchises first and then get a few under your belt to understand the viewership and then say, hey, sales, just so you know, this Cover 4 thing is doing pretty well. It's averaging about this many views. Can you try to get a sponsor? Is that usually the course of action?
It usually is the course of action, but there have been a few times, like I was working with someone this morning, just kind of brainstorming with them, and they're like, hey, I'm working with Procter & Gamble. They have this many clients or this many brands. They want to do something that's reaching more of the Hispanic audience. What kind of content could we do to create around that? So sometimes, brands will come to us who are already established partners with us, whether they have signage in the stadium or, some other part of their contract, and say, hey, we want to reach into the digital sphere. What could that look like? Whether it's already attaching to them to something that's pre-established or it is creating new content.
Love it. You and I, when we sat down for lunch a few months ago, we talked a little bit about player strategy and understanding that that's where all the reach is, right? Even the Dallas Cowboys are great, but if you put all your players together and look at their digital reach. Any tools or any strategy that's worked well for you to try to leverage Jason Witten, a Dak Prescott, an Amari Cooper type audience?
Yeah, I know in years past there's a lot of communication and almost some frustration of like, how are we going to get this content to the players to amplify through their own channels? And making sure that we're all...
And they want to share too. They want to share that dope highlight or that amazing photography,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, we've kind of just let it be more organic, which I've seen has been a little bit more successful. We have a team photographer who's created unbelievable relationships, Jeremiah Joss, with our players themselves. So players know, hey, Jeremiah took this photo. I know that's going straight to the Cowboys account. I can just shoot him a text and he can send it to me. Now, would we love that every time they post, they're tagging the Cowboys account? Yes. Right. But you also pick and choose, Sometimes they'll do it just because they want that as brand association as well. They want it to be when you press the photo, it tags the Cowboys. But in other ways, it's just, hey, DMing them the content or just...
Have you tried to use like a Greenfly or any of these apps that can get content? And
No.
Okay. So you think it's better just to do one-on-one when it's needed?
That's what we've kind of used as our strategy, just because, I think a perfect example, and I'll say this, yesterday Jalen Smith graduated from Notre Dame, and I have a good enough relationship with him that I'd seen him around the Star last week, and I was like, hey, I saw you're graduating this weekend. Are you actually going to the graduation? And he's like, yes, I am. And I was like, well, would you mind sending me a couple photos or videos for us to write an article on our website and put on social media? He's like, absolutely no problem. So yesterday I just shot him a text, hey, congrats, Jalen. Do you have any photos or videos? And he just sent it to me that way. So
Awesome.
I think it's still pretty one-on-one and not necessarily using any programs. Just because if I would have gone to Jalen and was like, hey, if you can enter it through this, Dropbox system, he wouldn't have been.
Yeah, historically too, with us with talent and in your case athletes, it's been pretty difficult to onboard them, but B, for them to use that platform.
Yes.
There are some new tools, I think, like a socially where it works with text messaging, and it could be a link to like photos, which may work better. But I agree. I think those tools make sense in theory, but if they're busy athletes or talent, it's tougher to get them to use that stuff.
I agree.
Do you know, since your time there, what the number one piece of content was or is on social media that you were a part of?
Breakfast Club. It was a 30-second video we did that included Des Bryant, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Cole Beasley, a lot of guys who aren't on the team anymore.
Okay.
And we just kind of played into the idea really originated that Cole Beasley, Shannon had the idea that Cole Beasley would always talk about having the sauce. And we had a fan who sent Shannon a picture of Cole Beasley's face on like a hot sauce bottle. And we were going to do something where Cole was like, too much sauce, whatever.
Right.
It expanded. We fed into more of the like Sports Center commercial idea of like just being organic to who these people are. And it was the Zeke gif of him eating cereal. And that kind of exploded just because we had the willingness from Zeke.
The GIF or the whole video exploded?
The whole video exploded. It did really well. And
the GIF became a viral thing. Yeah. Do you remember the numbers off the top of your head, like what the video garnered in terms of views?
I want to say it had something around 24 million on Facebook.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was massive. But that was at the brink of Facebook videos, because right around then we had a video with Sting, who's the pro wrestler.
Yes.
Sting.
I'm familiar with Sting.
I wasn't, so that's why I explained it. I had no idea. Shannon was like, this guy's really big. I was like,
he's
great.
kind of a big deal, yeah.
I had no idea. So Sting, and then we had the mannequin challenge video, and right around that whole same time, they were just all hitting like 20 million.
Wow. And yeah, same thing. Facebook at that time was juicing that algorithm for the Facebook videos to get more engagement.
They were super short too, and that just like fed into that.
What's I'll ask you this question first, because I think it's related. If you had all the budget in the world for the social and digital department, what would you do with it and why?
I would not do promoted posts. I wouldn't. I think that works in some instances, but I would say buying as much music rights as possible. And I say that because of the fact is that we've had plenty of ideas where we wanted to do something and it included a song. I'll give you an example, and I can say this because it probably will never happen. The Mo Mamba music video came out last year right when we were about to go into the playoffs. And one of the guys on our team, Brendan, had a great idea of like recreating that music video with our team. Love the idea. It probably would have hit well. They were the hot boys. It all seemed really in line. Not having those music rights hits you. So if I had all the money in the world, primarily most of it would go to getting music rights, securing things where you popular music, because people forget. Like, I talked to Allie Raymond at the Browns, who I love and respect. I think she does a great job. And she did the Office parody. And I was like, how'd you get away with using that? She's like, we didn't. We just kind of did it.
Yep.
And
a lot of people ask me that question all the time, and even at the Bleacher Report level, and it may not be that way anymore because they're getting a lot bigger, but it's a wild, wild west. I mean, and I think a little bit has to do with parody law as well. I think you can kind of skirt around it, but you're also the Dallas Cowboys, and you have a big target on your back. So if you use a Drake song, I'm sure, whatever record company he's with knocks on your door.
Oh, we had a great video about 4 years ago. Shannon had the idea of getting Montel Jordan in here to do it. This is how we do it.
You told me this story.
We had it, and it was great, but we didn't have the rights to the music, so we were never able to release it.
And I think you told me Montel Jordan didn't even have the rights. No. Like, he signed off on it, but the record company wouldn't sign off on it. So you had this video of him that went to the famous digital graveyard, which we all know about.
The worst. It's like a beating. But yeah, probably that. And then just, unfortunately, and this isn't at all levels, I know this to be true. At the professional level, when these guys do something and you want a Dak Prescott in your video or you want a big name player, you have to pay them. Which sometimes seems like, oh, why don't they just see the value in this exposure? But everyone else is doing it, so you have to do it as well, even though you're the team already paying them.
What do you mean by that? So if you want to do like a Breakfast Club type thing that you guys did before, you would need to pay separately to get them to do that?
So that was a favor. That was like one where it's like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Yeah, man, I'll do it. But if we came to, let's just say Dak, and we wanted to do a Post Malone music video where Post Malone's talking about Dak Prescott, always in the end zone or whatever, he would probably want money for that. Whether it be the team paying him or whether it be a brand paying him, we'd have to figure that out.
Because he's going to spend 2 hours of his day off to. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but it sounds like hey, we don't have a budget for this. We think it'd be funny. Are you down? And at that point, you're at the mercy of sure or no thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. All right. That being said, take the budget question out of it. Is there one thing you wish you can do more of at the Cowboys? Whether it be a constraint or just resources problem or whatever?
User-generated content. I think that Barstool Sports, Bleacher Report, some of those other brands have done a really, really, really great job of finding user-generated content, whether it be that fans are so in tune to tag them in these posts and they're reading it so thoroughly that they can find it and capitalize on it. That's huge. We don't necessarily have that focus because we're producing so much of our own content that we don't have the time to sit here and, hey, here's a fan rant that's hilarious. If we repost it.
If a high school kid does the Ezekiel Elliott feed me after he scores a touchdown, like that would resonate with your audience type deal.
Yeah, but we don't have the resources to be, scrolling through all of that and finding it. There was a great video that a fan had posted from one of the playoff games at AT&T Stadium of this old dad kind of having like a dance-off moment. And if we had seen it right away and been so in tune and we put it out instead of them, it would have done really well.
You guys should hire a UGC intern. All they do all day is just scour the web and build your evergreen library of that stuff.
Yes. Do they have those?
I think so. Get an intern and tell them, here's what you do. Here's your job description.
That would be the best job. I should do that.
I'm going to get you out of here, but I have some rapid fire questions here towards the end, which we always do. What's the one social or marketing tool that you could not live without?
Twitter. Does that count? TweetDeck?
TweetDeck is actually an answer we hear a lot, so I'm going to throw it on TweetDeck. I agree. TweetDeck just came out with a bunch of new features, too, where you can...
add the GIFs.
Add the GIFs, which is important, and schedule more stuff. I like it. From a business perspective, what social platforms seem to be working the best right now for the Dallas Cowboys?
Instagram.
Easy. That being said, can you rank in order of importance or at least resources dedicated when you look at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube?
Snapchat is at the bottom. I can just say that first and foremost.
RIP.
RIP for life. It's probably YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat.
So YouTube is number one?
Right now.
Wow.
I think for resources.
In the off season, or just you think going into the next season it'll be number one as well?
I think that we're just producing so much more video content that's so
And you're getting Google AdSense on every single video, which helps, right, with your original content?
Yeah.
Does it have to be your own like videographers that are employed by the Dallas Cowboys in order to turn monetization on? I'm just wondering because I'm sure the NFL and the partners and the highlights are a little bit different.
No, I don't think it necessarily does, but I think to post it on the channel it does. I don't know. We can't go ahead and post like the NFL's content or even if it's Cowboys highlights and monetize that. But we can, post our own highlights, even if you have like some different B-roll clips.
Gotcha. What is your personal guilty social media follow?
Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye. I love him.
All right. you talked about FOMO earlier, but industry FOMO, I think, is a thing we always talk about on the show. Everything moves so quickly. Algorithm changes. You can now use GIFs on TweetDeck, and we just talked about. Anything you recommend to stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape, whether it's a Twitter account or a newsletter or anything you read?
Follow Barstool Sports. They're usually first and foremost, I feel like. I thought you were going to say, like, what FOMO I have for other teams, because that would be like, I wish I could be hanging out with Sean McVay, or, like, I love Coach Garrett, but, like, he's not going to let us do all access type thing.
Yeah, McVay's a little younger. He understands the social.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Cliff Kingsbury does over there in Arizona.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. What inspires you, and how do you stay on the cutting edge?
Other boss women. I feel like I'm very female focused. I've shared that with you prior, but I think my sister is a really good asset to me, and that's funny because she's in the music industry and totally separate than me. But she'll tell me like, "Oh, this is a popular meme right now," and I'll be like, "Really? I don't even see it."
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I think at the last team summit, I know that there's another like Twitter summit coming up for football. But yeah, we talked about it with Samantha Wood at the Eagles. Like, I think at least 40% of social media managers now in the NFL are female.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, like when you first started in 2013, you probably wouldn't believe that, but it's awesome to see.
Well, because it's a hard industry. I mean, I think men just naturally, innately are more programmed to handle the grit and the grind of football. And that's not a knock on women. That's not saying anything they can't do, but it's something to overcome. And I think what inspires me, to go back to your question, is really seeing other people who are doing it and doing it really well.
When does I'm guessing it's August, but are we talking at least 6 hours a day, 7 days a week during the season? Like, is there ever a day off where you can trade with a coworker? Like, how do you manage your schedule in the season?
In season, it honestly has gotten easier. I'd say back, poor Dana, who's got my job now, she probably feels like she never has, time to come up for air. But as I've gotten into my new role and shifting some of my focus away from content creation and more analytics and reporting, it's actually helped kind of find that work-life balance. Because you
don't have to travel to every game.
Yeah, you don't have to travel to every game. I remember the feeling of when I was doing the actual posting, it was like, I can never be unplugged. And now I don't feel that. I still have a good pulse and beat about all of the content we're putting out.
Well, to your point, it sounds like you did that for a couple of years, and I think you'll agree with your colleagues in the space. It sounds like you can do that for a solid 2 to 4 years.
And then you just want to
and then after 4 years, like, it's just any human's like, all right, I need to be promoted or I need to move on to a different. It's a grind, man. I mean, I feel for you guys. NFL is 365, but that 6-month season, I mean, if your game day is on Sundays, then of course there's no balance.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just felt like, okay, I'm traveling on Saturday, and oh, by the way, there was this huge college football moment that now is trending, and you got to do this and this and this, and I just never felt like there was an opportunity to stay ahead. Now
Tuesday's the off day, but then someone gets traded or somebody says something, you have to hop on it.
Yeah, it's just like there's not really an off day for us, because then I would be, my whole afternoon would be cover 4 because that's a daily show. So it was a lot.
Well, then when you say strategy and analytics, I want to dive a little bit more deeper before we end this. Are you just constantly looking at all the feeds' performance and reporting back to Shannon and telling the team what's working, what's not working? Are they just go to you and say, tell us what to do because you're in the data on a regular basis? It's
such a new role. I mean, really, we were trying to figure it out this past year, and it was a transition. I mean, for 4 years, I had been constantly posting and doing all the hands-on content, and then to not be doing that anymore was a transition. But it was a healthy one because we didn't have somebody who they could go to and be like, hey, what was our top performing piece of content?
And when you're on the keys every day, you just don't have the time to look at the data at the same time.
No, you really don't, because you're pushing it out. And so, poor Dana, she's trying to catch up on what we've posted online. She can't sit there and be like, hey, here's this. But, every morning I have my set reports that I'm doing. And then,
what are you using software-wise for that? CrowdTangle?
I use CrowdTangle and SpreadFast. And, we have the, innate reports, or not innate, but native reports with Omniture.
Platforms too. Oh, Omniture. Yeah, that's from the NFL, right?
And Yin's Cam is our app.
And then what's Omniture's tracking league-wide, which I think some people wouldn't know that they do that. They send that out weekly, and they're tracking video views, website hits, engagement rate, follow growth rate, things like that. And because I've noticed in the NFL specifically, you guys are definitely competing against each other and saying, why is their growth rate so much higher than ours? And executives as well, even a Jerry Jones maybe get a little competitive about those numbers.
1000%. I mean, it's all about what you can say that's flashy. Like, we've had this growth and this many years, or, hey, this is our trajectory on Instagram, or because it's very easy. I mean, Facebook truly has not grown that much since I've been here in 5 years. And that's just because how many people like pages on Facebook anymore? That,
and also, you guys almost reached mass saturation at some point with probably on that platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any advice for your fellow SM Sports folks? Hashtag SM Sports folks.
Yes, I think it goes back to just what we were talking about. And I think my new thing that I keep thinking about is don't take your foot off the gas. And I say that because now that I've gotten into my career a little bit more, I'm 5 years out of graduation, which is the constant question of where you're going to be in 5 years. But I think it's don't take your foot off the gas, because I've seen a lot of people come into this industry and they start out hot. They're gung-ho on everything they're doing. They're eager to work every event, miss every holiday with their family. Sacrifice is nothing. And then as human nature, it wears on them. And they can't keep that. They can't sustain that lifestyle. And so I think it's figuring out the balance, which no one will ever do, but being comfortable with a balance is first and foremost. And then just not keeping, just keeping the focus on what your ultimate goal is. And whether that be, hey, I want to be an executive by this age, or I want to run social media at the NFL level, or those sort of things. That's awesome. My best advice.
One of the last ones I'll give you too is, where do you, from your background and what you're seeing currently, and listen, working in social and looking at data at one of the top sports franchises in the world, where do you see this whole digital social thing going at the team level as we look? You and I sit down 3 or 5 years from now. Where are we headed?
It's becoming more personal. I mean, they want to know. Like, we've had this talk many times. It's, hey, I like Dak Prescott, so I like the Cowboys. Or I don't like Zeke Elliott, so I don't like the Cowboys. I think that Jerry Jones is this way, so I don't feel this way about the full team. So it's capitalizing on the personal stars that every brand or organization has. I've seen a really good job with Sarah Blakely at Spanx. She's elevated Spanx to a new level digitally because of who she is personally. And so I think that as we move forward, you're going to see different brands or organizations moving toward the personal influencers. And influencers have taken a shift already in marketing. I mean, it's a $4 billion industry. So you look at something like, hey, the college football playoff, we need to grow it. Well, hey, Bill Hancock, we're going to make him have his own social media, or this, and this. You look here, we're going to do Jerry Jones Q&As every week. It's got to be more personal.
To that point, do you think there'll be a switch soon where, when the Cowboys sign that contract with that top free agent or that rookie, that you need to let our team help run your social, because that becomes such a vehicle to the fan base in terms of reach?
Yeah, I think leveraging others, whether it be the player is leveraging our reach or vice versa, I think that is important. I don't know if it will necessarily ever be where, hey, you come here, it's a complete takeover, because just what they're doing with so many outside, brands and companies, that seems nearly impossible.
I do wonder, though, if they're going to write that into the contracts, much like The Rock and Kevin Hart. Like, please believe they have separate contracts. Like, oh, you want to use my Instagram and my social to pump this movie? You need to pay me separately for that. Maybe for players, they'll start being, hey, we're going to give you $50,000 extra, whatever.
That's really smart. I mean, that's going to be an ownership shift too, though, where the ownership sees the value in that. Hey, Dak, if we're going to give you a $30 million a year contract, you're going to, hey, maybe
give us an hour with social every month or whatever. Yeah.
$50,000 is, this, and this. $50,000 a month. I don't know. I don't make that kind of money, so I can't rationalize how
whatever Dak's agent can can break down for
Oh,
him,
man.
negotiate for him.
I truly can't fathom that type of money. I'm like, well, we could get like $500, and they're like, no, these people make millions.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't get it.
Have Dak pick up the check on the Drake license, man. He'll help you out next
Yeah,
time.
can you go talk to Post?
Last, can you go talk to Post? That may be a quote we use.
Yeah.
Last question for you. If you can recommend anybody in your network that you think would be a good guest on this show to drop some knowledge for the fine folks that listen, anybody that comes to mind that you can maybe hook it up with an intro?
Gosh, now I'm thinking. I feel like I'm on the spot here.
Yeah,
You know who was interesting to me? He might already have been on the show, and I haven't talked to him since. But have you talked to Dom Lewis, who used to be with the Seahawks?
No, I've not.
So he used to run the Seahawks social media, and this is all just from what I'd seen on his social media. But he went to the not the XFL, the AAF.
Yeah, Alliance.
The Alliance League.
Woo, tough,
was the director
tough
of their social media. And now, obviously, so I would be curious to talk to him about how that all transpired and what their vision was with social and digital and why he believed in it so much to leave the Seahawks.
A lot of people in our industry, and I think you agree, followed that story pretty closely. And I mean, people were left without paychecks being, sent. That's, you take even like an agency like myself at STN, we could have potentially signed a deal with them and did all this work and then never got paid. Like it makes you double think before maybe you leave a job for a new venture, which is kind of scary. But
yeah, absolutely. That's why I thought of him, just because I've been interested in picking his brain of like how I know that he's a smart guy.
They did a really good job too. I mean, they got some great growth there in the couple months that they were on it. Yep.
Yeah, and then just for it to turn out the way that it did.
Yeah.
I can totally make that intro for you if you need.
I got you. All right, Taylor. I'll hit you up on email. But thank you so much for the time once again. Taylor Stern, the content strategist of the Dallas Cowboys. We will talk soon.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Taylor.
Bye.
Bye. All righty. Taylor Stern. Thanks so much to Taylor for joining us. Some hot takes there right at the top. Jason Witt in the top 3. I mean, that's got to be a biased answer. I mean, to leave the great Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders, prime time, does not make the top 3. Emmitt Smith. I mean, these guys are 3-time world champions. Jason Witten. I mean, listen, I know the guy's an All-American there, but he's definitely not a Super Bowl winner. He is interesting. He's just like Antonio Gates. Like, I feel like he can play till he's 42. He just runs a slow route, but he uses that basketball box out ability to catch red zone passes. So I'm sure Dak Prescott is liking that. Some good stuff from Taylor. Also interesting, listen, I mean, I don't think a lot of NFL teams have a content strategist on their team, someone looking at data, being able to pull levers, and she's so right on that, right? Like, if you're posting daily, you don't have time to come up for air and understand, like, is this really the right strategy? Because things move so quickly. So for her team, it looks like Dana on her team, which it looks like Dana's killing it. So shout out to her for the hustle and the grind. But for someone like Dana or someone like a social media coordinator to go to the content strategist and say, hey, what's working, what's not? Because there may be, after a couple months in the season, there may be a piece of content that you could totally kill because it's not working with your audience anymore. So someone look at that on a daily basis. And I think it's interesting. We've talked to Taylor quite a bit about this, but they're running all those accounts like the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader account and, the Star account now with that whole facility. And essentially anything Jerry Jones has, he's like, yo, I'm going to put my Dallas Cowboy team on it and they're going to run it. So it causes for, I'm sure, a lot more work and a lot more, handles that they have to oversee, but it allows kind of the best in the game to look over all those different social strategies. What else am I missing? What were we talking about, Will? We were talking about, the player stuff was interesting. Like, I get it. Like, if Dak Prescott's going to take 2 hours out of his off day on Tuesday to do a piece, like to charge for it, but I haven't heard that on the show yet. I think a lot of this stuff is obviously done by favors, and a lot of this stuff is like, I'll help the squad out. But you look at guys like Kevin Durant and these bigger players like LeBron, they're not probably doing too many social exclusives without it a brand paying for it or the team saying, hey, we'll give you, here's a check for the time and helping us out here. So that is interesting where it's all going, though, right? Like, if you want it's not so much a favor, and you only have so many favors as a social person at an NFL team to ask. So anyways, that was some good stuff from Taylor Stern, content strategist at the Dallas Cowboys. We really appreciate it. As always, want to thank Will, Dave, Furker, Dylan for all their help on the show. This is episode 36 of the Business of Social podcast, powered by STN Digital.